Hello, everybody. Welcome to the football experience. We were just talking about the King's coronation. I don't know.
We were.
Look, we'll start off on that because they're trying to get involved in the Premier League. It's a little bit of like it's small news, I suppose. They're trying. What are they trying to do? They're trying to get them to play the anthem before every game or something like that. Like "God Save the King."
This one went right over my head. So you're carrying us here.
Yeah, look, I don't know, because here's the thing though, we're probably the wrong people to ask because we grew up in Australia, and I know that Australia's under the monarchy, but whenever the royals came, we never really gave a shit. Well, at least us. I know that some Australians do.
A lot of people do, yeah.
Yeah, I know some do, but like, I don't know. I don't think we really care. But like, they never play the anthem before any games. This is sort of a special event. Is it a big deal?
No, not really. To be fair, they've already cancelled two weekends of football for the Queen's death in a season where you really couldn't afford to do that. So if they're going to accommodate that, you've got to think that they're going to accommodate the national anthem being played.
Yeah, the only thing is, like, you have, for instance, like in Liverpool, they're not really royalists. So
yeah, Europe's crazy like that. I love that.
Yeah.
How it's like within the country, there's just different regions and they all believe different things.
Yeah, it'd be interesting though, because Spain still have their king, or their royal family, but you don't really hear.
But Spain's even more divided than England in terms of that.
Are they?
Look at
I don't really know about it. Like,
definitely what you know about Barcelona and Catalonia.
Yeah, but they want to split from Spain. They don't necessarily want to split from, like, I don't know about their stance with the king, but they want to split from Spain altogether, not just like not have a royal family. That's their stance. That's like,
I don't know how the other. I think there's 4 regions in Spain, and I don't know exactly how the other 3 feel. But they all have their own languages and stuff as well, which is crazy to me. Boggles my mind.
Yeah. But speaking of Liverpool, should we start off there?
Oh, that's where you want to start.
I don't know. Well, since we sort of introduced them into the topic, but all I'll say is, Richarlison needs to keep his shirt on. That
God, he does.
That shirt is cursed. It is cursed. And
it's so funny.
Is that the 3rd time he's taken his shirt off and like the goal's been like either disallowed or like, I know this one wasn't disallowed, but something like karma hit like straight away, like just yeah.
Absolutely. I think I saw that. I don't know if it's a meme, but the thing that said, I think it was the 3rd time, and he got booked the 1st time and goal disallowed, and then I think he got sent off the other time and goal disallowed, and then obviously this time they concede 2 minutes later. I totally agree. He needs to buck his ideas. He's on this like vindication quest after his comments about Conte not playing him and him thinking he should play more. And fair play, he scores the goal, but my God, man, it's just. I think all football fans are loving the meme that is Richarlison. It's just like fans who are not Spurs supporters. I just love this. It's like, he's gonna do it again. He's gonna take his shirt off. He's gonna give it some of this. Everyone, shut up. And then something's gonna happen. So once it happens, it was like what I said about Haaland with the hair coming out and it feeling inevitable that they'd scored. It just felt inevitable something was going to happen. I didn't know it would be a Liverpool winner, but as soon as that shirt came off, it's like, hey, something bad's going to happen here for him.
There's a couple of things to unpack here, though. Like, see, I watched most of the first half, and then the second half, like, I went to eat and all that stuff. So I was like, oh man, this game's over. Like, I know it was 3-1 already at halftime. I was like, nah, like. So, there's a couple of things to unpack. Firstly, I think we'll start. Should we start in chronological order, or should we start with like the winning goal?
Go where you want to go.
Because we'll start with the winning goal since that's a little bit of a controversial topic at least. Because apparently people are saying that Jotta should have gotten a red card for a raised foot on Skip.
Yeah, I thought it could have been a red.
There's like for our listeners, there's going to be a constant like beeping sound because my internet security keeps coming up with notification regarding Discord. Like, I gave it access to my webcam.
It's been compromised.
I gave it access to my webcam. I don't know what the hell it is. All right, if it beeps one more time, I'll just disable notifications. But we'll leave it for now. Yeah. So like, did you see that challenge?
Yeah, I thought it
studs to the face. Yeah, and
like it was one of those. You remember the Nani one at I think against Bayern Munich at Old Trafford. I think towards the end of Ferguson, and he didn't know he was there, but I think he got Robin right in the chest with his studs.
That's chest.
Like, well, this was head, and it was the same thing. Jotta didn't know he was there. And I think that's why he escapes.
But Mane got he got a red card for the one on Edison a couple of years ago.
Yeah, a few years ago. Yeah, so it's no excuse once your foot's up there and
studs are showing
a chance to make contact. Yeah, I think they usually give a yellow if it doesn't make contact with anyone, but it's a red if you make contact. And so yeah, it should have been a red card really.
So Tottenham fans have something to be a little bit aggrieved about, but. I don't know. Here's the. I think we're both in agreement with that. Like, I saw the challenge, I was like, yeah, it's a bit of a high foot. And since studs were showing, it's not like the toes were pointed down. Like, it was actually like, you know, and he drew blood as well. So like, and he was even sent off. So like, why wasn't Tini like, okay, VAR, like, what do you guys think? Like, should at least tell me at least have a look at this. Because I missed it, so there's that.
Weren't we meant to be privy to the discussions that went on this season?
I think that was for the Club World Cup. That was for the Club World Cup, and as a trial. I think they might be trialing it at one other event as well.
Also, as a sidebar, I find it staggering that this is the Premier League, and this is the second time this has happened. Because the first time was the instances they have these really crisp cameras in some other leagues. I think the Premier League finally has it now. Where it kind of blurs everything in the background and makes the focal point really crisp. Took them forever to get them. Like Serie A, La Liga, Bundesliga, they all had those cameras. Premier League was like the last one to get it. And Serie A has the semi-automated offsides. I guess after what happened with Juve and Salernitana, they never wanted that to happen again. But they've got the ones they used in the World Cup, and I find it staggering the Premier League's meant to be the richest league in the world, and it doesn't have the semi-automated. The semi-automated does it in like 30 seconds. It's been so good for Serie A, and yet here we are relying on like lines for every offside decision. It's taken like 5 minutes.
But not only but while you're on that, I think I spoke about this earlier in the season. The production value of like La Liga, where they have like you're watching the game.
Stuff.
Yeah, you're watching the game, and then like there's a corner, and then it's like 30% of the corners go in this area, 20% go in this, and then like. And they also have that for like attacks as well, like and they put up like a heat map over the game and stuff. Like they do like all this extra stuff. It's like from one perspective, one side of me likes that because they only show up for like 10 seconds. Like it's a quick on and off. Like here's just like a quick thing in regards to stats for the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or for like previous games or whatever. But then also like. Another part of me is like, I just want to watch the game, and I just want it to be like uninterrupted, crisp. Because this is like something completely different but similar. I can't remember which game I was watching this weekend, but for every goal, like the main advertiser comes on, and it just like comes on in the bottom, and then like so it comes up like this, and then up into the right hand corner. So it's like just like a massive banner in the bottom of the screen. And they kept it up for a good like 5 minutes. Like someone didn't like click the off button, and like and they were attacking down the bottom right hand wing as well. And it's like I can't see the ball of a player. It's like take this shit off, man. So yeah, like there's that. But look, back to the game. All right, what's the key takeaway from this? Because for the first 15-20 minutes, I'm like, man, Liverpool are romping. They look like they're going to finish the season strong. They're back. And then they give away a 3-goal lead.
Yeah, the key takeaway is these two teams are not very good. That's why they're irrelevant down the stretch of this season. And, well, unless you care about Europa League, which, I don't know, I feel like both should care about. I was going to maybe be a bit condescending and say Spurs should care about the Europa League. To be honest, Spurs should actually care about the Europa League because that could be a trophy that could actually win, and they actually have a bit of a history.
It's the only way they can get into Champions League too.
Maybe, yeah, it might be an easier way than through the Premier League, I will say, although they wouldn't have expected Newcastle to be above them. They wouldn't have even expected United to be above them the way United started the season.
Yeah, like so, I don't think anyone's putting United top 4.
And I think a lot of people had Tottenham. I never say I have a team to do something before the season starts, but it wasn't outside the realms of possibility that they'd be the third best contender to the league title this season.
Everyone was putting them there.
Yeah, because of the way they finished last season. Harry Kane found form. Son was Golden Boot winner last season, and they sort of finished strong to get into the top 4. And it's like, well,
and they signed really like 5 new players as well.
Yeah, and the manager, they had Antonio Conte. He knows what it takes to win it. So they looked a logical pick to be third in that list. It hasn't worked out that way. And if you want to talk about not working out that way, just look at the Liverpool side of this equation. We easily had them as 1 or 2 in the country going into the season. And yeah, it's a real indictment on... This game was a real indictment on both these clubs. I can't believe Tottenham can start that poorly away again. At a broad daylight Anfield, not an evening or a night Anfield. I know you love that one. But yeah, fans leaving again. They must have been saying, "Mum, it's happening again. Come and get me from the stadium." But, oh my God. But then we saw what Liverpool do. Liverpool are a terrible defence. Virgil van Dijk lost his soul. I don't know if you like that moment. I don't know. I was going to say, like, when it was still only 3-1, I'm like, if Liverpool come out of this game winning 3-1, I'll say, look, Tottenham shouldn't refund the fans just for that moment. They got to see the defender who, in large part for the last 3, 4, 5 years, has been at least one of the best in the world. My God, there was this Khalid Boularus one. I think Robbie Keane sat him down in this epic game between Tottenham and Chelsea at White Hart Lane. I think Mourinho's last season. Yeah, and Robbie Keane just sits Boularus down. That one was really embarrassing. This Van Dijk one may be worse. Man, it looks like he broke his ankles as well. It was a real ankle breaker. And it's just like, it was like that Simpsons one. If you freeze it right there, you can see where his soul leaves his body. It was terrible, man. And then, yeah, Liverpool just show what they are. And Tottenham, I guess Tottenham out Liverpooled, or Tottenham outdid them in the stakes of who could be the most incompetent, because Lucas Moura back pass is absolutely ridiculous. The whole Richarlison saga is ridiculous, and Tottenham are going to Tottenham. So I guess that's good for us. I guess it looks like 5th or 6th is at least in our grasp. Brighton are obviously coming on strong, winning 6-0 on the weekend, and having United in the midweek. But yeah, top 4.
It was a shock, but not a shock with Brighton.
Yeah. I know. This was the weekend where a few teams you could see really start to let go of the rope. Wolves are on vacation. They're like, we're done. We're going on vacation now. Fulham at least put up a good fight, but yeah, around Europe, a few teams were just like, yeah, we're done. We're clocking off here.
And then just two other takeaways.
Yeah.
From the game. Klopp bullies Javi.
Oh
it was one of those. It was a bit of a sore winner celebration though, because he went and celebrated in the 4th official's face.
Oh, it was terrible. It was awful.
Yeah, so it's like it would have been like just 100% funny if it was just a normal celebration and he pulls his hammy, but like because he goes and celebrates in the 4th official's face, it's like
he pushed
karma
through
funny
it to get there as well.
It's karma funny then. And then obviously after the match, there's some crap going on between Klopp accusing Tierney of having favoritism against Liverpool. And then
he hates Tierney. It's crazy.
I do too. I don't really like him. He has a punchable face.
Jurgen Klopp obviously agrees. Yeah. He'll do his hammy to get to it as well.
But
You reckon he was just yelling? Do you reckon he was yelling in the fourth official's face so that Tierney could hear it through the earpiece as well? That's what he might have been doing.
probably. But
Oh my god! But yeah, no, he deserved the hammy pull. He said that himself. It probably doesn't make up for the fact that he should serve some sort of ban. He should be fined. It's pretty terrible behaviour, to be quite honest. You can't go scream at the poor fourth officials. He's shading the match. So I don't know, man. It's just if the poor
Yeah, but
fourth official. I feel
yeah,
like
but he has it in his locker. It's not the first time he's done it
he
this
does,
season.
man.
This
That
season
one
it's
he
not the
did at
first time.
Napoli. Yeah,
Yeah,
even
that
this
too.
season, of course. But yeah, that classic one from back in the day with Dortmund at Napoli, that was actually scary. So he's a big guy as well, Jurgen Klopp. I think he's like 6'2", 6'3", so he
Yeah.
towers over most people.
Was it? It was against
It's
City
not
where
good behaviour.
where he went and ran down the linesman, wasn't it? It was against City. I'm pretty sure. I can't remember if it was the first game. I think it was it was the first game because they got thrashed in the second game.
Yeah, and this season it's just like, I don't know, this season isn't worth behaving. The stakes aren't high enough. We haven't played well enough to be relevant enough to warrant that kind of behaviour on the touchline. If you're going for a title against Manchester City, and I can somewhat at least excuse the tension you must be feeling. But like, what are we fighting for this season? I guess Europa League, but it'll be nice to get in Europa League. I always say that. I think that's a worthy prize, but top four is completely locked up at this stage. So
Yeah, and while
stupid behaviour for sure.
while we're on manager antics, I didn't actually bring this up when we were doing the City Arsenal game, but have you noticed that Arteta's been pretty subdued on the touchline
He has
for the
actually. That's a good point.
last like month and a half, 2 months?
Hmm.
And it's been ever since like all these pundits and stuff have been calling out him coming like 10 meters out of the technical area and stuff like that. And you know what? It looks like it's had a bit of an impact on the team's performance.
That's an interesting theory. I don't know if I'll be on the lookout for it just because I don't know. Well, it'll be interesting to see what kind of tension there is around Arsenal's next game against Chelsea, which I guess we'll talk about in the pod later in the week. And Arsenal's remaining fixtures, because if there is tension, then I'll definitely be looking for it. But there should be tension. I think they should still be going for it. But I think that's an interesting.
But
theory,
I
'cause he
have a
has
feeling I have a feeling that
Yeah.
that like either people higher up in the club have said, look, we've gotten complaints from the Premier League, or like the Premier League have come directly to him and said, hey, just tone it down a little, because we've told our fourth officials to be more strict with all managers, and you're obviously the number one culprit, so that might be a reason, because I've noticed that change in body language on the touchline, because usually he's very, very hands-on, and for a young team you need to be hands-on, I feel.
Yeah, but I feel like ultimately, in all of their growth, the team and his, I think it'll be a good thing for him if he can become a little bit more subdued. And to be fair, I thought at some points last season, I had a real dislike for him and his antics on the touchline. This season, I haven't really had a problem for the most part. But he was definitely more involved earlier on in the season, and I think he has taken a bit of a backseat. And yeah, it'll just be interesting to see if that's just all part of his learning and the team's learning. And we can't lose sight of the fact that this Arsenal team is so young, the second youngest team in the league. So to be here to experience this, to have a pretty bright future, I'd say, if you stacked up their future against most other clubs in the league, I'd say, man, I'm fascinated by next season. I've got to say.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's a few things that fascinate me about this season left. But next season, I really want to see where we are after 10, 15 games. That's what I'm really... Like a Napoli still at the top of Serie A. They still playing really well. Who do they still have on the team? A Manchester City, what are they doing? Who have they brought in? Arsenal, are they continuing, or is it an anomaly? I don't know. I'm fascinated to see what happens. But alas, we're here. There's still a few things to uncover this. Did you have one more takeaway from the Liverpool?
Not really. It's just the fact that, yeah, just pretty much what I brought up at the beginning. Like, was like at first everyone thought, okay, Liverpool's back on the right track, but then even with that, you can then go, well, Newcastle shipped 5 goals against them in the first 20 minutes, so Liverpool's just doing what Newcastle did. So is it because Liverpool is back, or is it because Tottenham is just that fucking terrible at the moment? Um, and then then Liverpool go and show us that their form, I guess, that they've been showing for this season, ship 3 goals. But then
The front three looks all right. I'll
yeah,
say, especially with Luis Diaz back in, he looked all right.
oh yeah,
so that's a positive.
That's a big win for you guys for next season. Like the fact that he can finish off the last 5 or so games of this season, and then be ready for the very beginning of preseason going into next season. That's going to be immense for you guys, because if he was, for instance, coming back at the start of preseason or even midway through preseason, it'd be like, well, he's still not going to be 100% ready for the first game of the next season, because you still need time. But like the fact that he's coming back now already, I feel like that's going to be almost like a new signing for you guys.
Yeah, but the problem is it'll be in an area where we didn't need a new signing. We need that in midfield. If we could have one of them right there, that'd be nice. And Jotta scored for however many consecutive games. So yeah, I always use the thing about the poorly drawn horse with Liverpool, and that front three do look really good. I got to say, I'm a big Cody Gakpo fan. I really like how he's slotted into the team, and I love that when he gets on the half turn, and which is quite often because that's what he's been asked to do. But he keeps his feet through challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he could be dragged down, people could be all over his back, but he keeps trying to run through it. I just love that because, like, it just keeps the defense. They yet pretty much have to take him to the ground to get him down when he's in that situation. He just keeps so much pressure, and if the referee's doing his job properly, then they'll get a yellow card anyway. So I think it just makes sense to keep going. I love that mentality. But I wanted to mention that because, honestly, we're probably not going to. Like I keep saying, these two teams are irrelevant, and that's not how they wanted it to pan out. But they showed us it in this game. It was everything poor about these teams. Some good from Liverpool, but then some terrible.
Yeah, Didn't really get much out of this game, but Liverpool did leapfrog Tottenham with that win.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah, so,
if United didn't have a game in hand over Liverpool, like, so if they were on 33 games on 63 points, I'd be like, there's a chance. But the fact that they have a game in hand, yeah, I'd say that top 4 is locked.
Yeah, especially when United can be as solid as they usually are. I know they have had some capitulations. Maybe we hold them I think we hold them against them the right amount. You can't really be doing that. But at the same time, when they're not capitulating, for the most part, they are really solid. They don't concede many goals. They're missing both their centre-backs at the moment, and they still can eke out a 1-0 win at home against a very, very in-form Aston Villa side. So they got a main man up front. He was all right in this game. He still made the impact for, I guess, the assist. It will go down as an assist, and he's another one I'm interested in next season. I think we should do a whole pod when we get to the end of the season or the start of next season or whatever it is. Just storylines we're looking at interest. But I'm interested in Marcus Rashford and to see if he is actually that guy and he is the guy who's going to lead the United line, or is this a bit of an anomaly season as well. But yeah, United are way too strong. They've had some bad days, but for the most part, they've been built pretty much on a foundation of a pretty solid defense. I think I can't remember what the stat was, but I brought it up a couple of weeks ago. If you took out those capitulations at Brentford, at Liverpool, and at Manchester City, then they'd have one of the best defenses. And if obviously you put a few extra goals, just a reasonable amount of goals on those scores, they'd be one of the best defenses in the league. So I think the eye test tells that. I think sometimes they can be a bit boring. maybe Antony takes the jump next season. Bruno's been pretty good for the most part. I think they're worthy to get into top four, for sure. And yeah, this top four as it looks. But the one who I really love watching, and my probably. Oh, Arsenal were up there at the start of the season, but they've sort of waned off, especially without Saliba. So I reckon Newcastle are my favourite team to watch in the top four right now. And I don't know. Sometimes you gotta take a step back and think this is Newcastle. Like, who the hell were Newcastle at midway through last season? They were relegation fodder. Yeah. They were, and now look at them. They are comfortably the third best team in the country, and they're closer to second than they are to fourth, and that's not disparaging United, who I think like I said, have been pretty solid this season. I like what they've done, but yeah, Newcastle have an extra gear. They find themselves 1-0 down against Southampton, and I was watching a few games at the time. I think I had 3 going at once, but this was the one that got my attention because like they were 1-0 down at home, St. James's Park, and it's like, all right, they need to lift the intensity second half. I know it's all laid on a foundation of they're playing the bottom team in Southampton at home, so why should you find yourself 1-0 down? They were very good in the first half. But they just keep showing the characteristics of a good team. Like I said a few weeks ago against Brentford, they were able to change tactically at halftime, and they're able to turn it around and get the result. In this game, they need to lift their intensity. They need to put more pressure, and they were so relentless for the first 20 minutes of the second half. It was just exhilarating, especially in front of St. James's Park, and they just beat you down, and they've got the options. Anthony Gordon is my one concern. Why did they splash so much money on him? Is it so much money for them? We don't know under the current owners, but he's just trying to do too much. He thinks he should be the star man, but this Newcastle team is the star man. And if you want to point to anyone, it's obviously Guimaraes, but I think his mentality is to be team first himself. So they're an unbelievable team. They're like I said, the just the energy and their relentless nature. They're another storyline. Let's see if they're an anomaly next season, but they make no mistake about it, they will be playing Champions League football, and they deserve to be playing Champions League football because they've just been a breath of fresh air. And it's again, I'm always staggered. They keep passing these tests. It's like, I know it's against the bottom club, but can you turn this game around? Can you show enough? Can you be relentless enough that they just crack? And they did it again. And they pass all of these tests. They're unbelievable.
Yeah, well, I called it.
You called it.
I called it. Like, hey, before the World Cup, I was saying that, yeah, when we did that top 16 teams in Europe, I had them in there. And, they continued along that path, and they look even better now.
I'm sick of hearing about this. So I got my book. I'm going to open that up and see the top 16.
I think I had them
ranked.
I had them 14th or 15th. And you almost didn't want to rank them.
I had them 10th, bro.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. I had them above Tottenham. I had them still above. I didn't have United on my list. World Cup break, best teams. I didn't have United on my list. But I had Newcastle 10th.
I swear.
Just below Barcelona and just above Tottenham.
I swear you were contemplating between them and United at the time.
Maybe for that tier, because they are the last team of that tier. But that's funny because I didn't put United in there at all. But you want to hear something funny? Well, funny enough was Tottenham at 11, Liverpool at 12. Nah, that one has an age as well. Anyway, I wanted the facts because I'm sick of hearing about this. I'm pretty sure I've been on Newcastle. I was on Newcastle last season, man.
No, man, we need to go back and watch that video. I want to see where exactly you put them.
I'll leave that up to you to get the receipts, but I looked at the book.
But the book lies. If I recall correctly, you wanted to put them 15th or something, or not even put them in there. I can't remember exactly, but I remember we were having a debate about them, and I remember that I wanted them in there.
According to my receipts,
or it might have been that I wanted them above United, and you didn't want them, and you wanted United above them.
Maybe, but like I said, I didn't have United in that list eventually, so it is what it is. I know in my heart of hearts, I've liked what Newcastle have been doing this season, and yeah, even last season when we're asking those questions, like we said, it was about Arsenal. So look, they're not going to catch Arsenal, but they're honestly, I don't think they're that far off Arsenal. To be fair,
I don't think they're
so
that far off even City, to be honest.
yeah, well, because Arsenal aren't far off City, so I
Yeah.
think it's fair to say that absolutely. Even though obviously everyone's purring about City, and I guess we need to touch before we move away from the Premier League on City. I was so disappointed to see them doing their John Stones bullshit again, and I thought you could say that I'm clutching at straws, but I thought it kind of not led to the first goal, but was something that compounded that long ball over the top. The fact that John Stones is constantly from midfield having to track back into that area. I thought it disorganized the defense a little bit unnecessarily. And then they were kind of all over the place for that equalizing goal. But I mean, it helps when you can bring on this Alvarez boy. I don't know. He looks all right. He looks like a fairly decent player. I haven't seen him play much for City, but I think he's a decent player. And I don't know, Kevin DeHoo. It was just man, this so they don't even start Phil Foden in any games anymore. He just comes off the bench. It's madness. This depth that they have
And he's only getting
up
like
front.
10, 15 minutes as well.
Oh, I
He's not
know.
getting much game time.
He isn't. He isn't. He's
I
just sitting there laying dormant.
wonder
And
what
just-
I wonder what he must have said to Pep to get in on his bad side, because that's what it feels like.
I don't know. I think he's found it. I think it's the form of Jack Grealish, to be quite honest. He's undroppable at the moment.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? And then in the big games, he trusts Bernardo Silva on the other side. So there's no spot for there for Phil Foden. Nonetheless, oh my god, it's scary. Just like there normally isn't a spot for Alvarez, but if he's called upon, he can score a 25-yard starter in a game where City needed him to score that goal because they weren't their free-flowing best. They weren't the City that everyone's been purring over, and I've got to say, I like Kyle Walker being back in the team. And one sort of thing I can maybe point to as to why he was doing it was because, I don't know, for some reason he wants Kyle Walker to be the third centre-back and he wants Stones to be in the midfield. So what was happening, Kyle Walker from right-back was actually playing as the right centre-back when they were in possession. I still think it's just more hassle than it's worth. I think it disorganises Manchester City in moments. And I think if teams can make the game really transitional against Man City, I think you can take advantage of him moving between positions because there's a point in time where he's out of position, like I said, for the Fulham goal. So if you hit it quickly enough, which Bayern Munich, while I'm still shocked, could not do with the players that they have at their disposal. I just think it's unnecessary. And I've liked City so much more when John Stones has just been an out-and-out centre-back. I think he's looked more solid. Look, to be fair, he still does good things in midfield. I'm not disparaging that, but I'm just saying I don't think they need to do it, and I think this game sort of pointed to it a little bit. I'm not going to clutch at straws, but they have so much immense attacking quality that they're all right in most games. Disappointingly for Arsenal, it would have been nice to see City slip up a couple of points because I think that would have got everyone a little bit more interested back into the title race straight away.
If they at least drew this game with Fulham, it would have made things a little bit more interesting. But yeah, City just keep doing City things. Sort of while we're on City, on the weekend, apparently some news came in that Luka Modric probably won't be available for their clash. But then now I'm reading that apparently, I don't know, like apparently he went to Serbia and saw some medical professional who helped.
Paolo knows a guy.
Who helped? No,
knows a guy.
who helped Novak Djokovic, and apparently he should be ready.
Novak's bad,
dude. All right, no, so look, I think like on Friday or Saturday, like the news was he's out till the end of the season, but he'll be back for the Nations League semi-final against Netherlands. So it's like, okay, he's out, definitely out. And now it's like, oh, like this witch doctor, like did some crazy stuff. Nah, he's ready. He's back.
It was all just a bit of games, I reckon.
Maybe, who knows,
Oh
man?
man.
But like, I don't know. But look, I don't. Okay, here's the thing. Do you want City to win the Champions League, or like? Well, I know we're sort of going away from like the EPL, but now we're going Champions League because, like, you know, we've spoken about this. You, Liverpool yourself, you've been a main rival over the past 5 seasons against them, and now I'm falling into that boat where at least this season we're their main rival. I don't want to see them winning anything, but like last year I was like, and like years before I was like, yeah, man, City play good. Like I wouldn't mind seeing them win because like they're a good football playing team and stuff. Now I'm like, nah, fuck City.
Okay, so do we want to do this now, or do we want to do this closer to the Champions League?
We can do a smidge of it now.
All right, we'll do a smidge.
Do a
So
smidge.
there's four storylines. There's Real Madrid for 15 to get to keep the trophy for the third time.
We don't need
which
to talk
is
about that. We just want to talk about our emotional outlook at least regarding City. We don't need.
Well, no, I just want to set it up so
Okay.
that we could get to the answer. There's that. There's Manchester City first one. Manchester City, who everyone's purring over. Pep, who has shown an adaptability this season, although this team is not a vintage Pep team, I don't believe, for what they've done through the course of the season. But it's the first one, and a lot of people feel that they're ready. And then you've got on the other side, you've got... I kind of like the Milan storyline. It depends. A lot of this depends if Istanbul still will have the final, because I think of a political situation, what's going on there or something. So it depends if Ataturk still gets it, but AC Milan's revenge mission, going back to that stadium and putting those ghosts and those demons to bed from 2005. And then there's Inter, who are the consummate cup team, trying to win their 4th in their history. They have to get through the Milan derby, just like so. I don't know. Out of these 4, because you're asking about, do you want to see City? And my instant reaction is no. And I still think I'm going to come to the conclusion that I do not want to see them win the Champions League. But if they are clearly the best team, how much can I begrudge that? I think that would be right to say. But if they were clearly the best team, if we're going off that logic, I would want to see them play Napoli in the final. So that's disappointing in itself. But Real Madrid getting to... I think I might want to see Real Madrid win it again. Out of all those teams, I think I'd put Inter second. I'd put AC third. AC I'd put third just because of the fact that Liverpool are only 1 behind AC at the moment, and I don't want that gap to get up to 2. Real Madrid, it doesn't matter. They're up to 14. We're not going to catch them in my lifetime, so there's no point talking about them. I do fancy... I might like one of the Milan teams winning it just because everyone thinks the winner has to be Real Madrid or Manchester City. And, I agree that they're the better teams, but I also know that a final is a one-off game. And as a Liverpool supporter, I watched it in 05 because AC Milan were, say, 3 times as good as Liverpool. We had Jimmy Traore starting as the left back. My God. Say no more about that team. How some of those players ever grace the pitch of a Champions League final, I don't know, but... Football's a crazy sport, and Liverpool somehow won that thing. So anything can happen in a final. So it would just put everything into perspective, not to go too soon about. Well, that team's clearly better, so they should win it. It's a one-off game. We don't always get the right champion in the Champions League, and I'll say Todd blue in the face last season sort of suggested that for me.
Yeah, but all in all, though. Sort of sick of City winning everything.
You want that one that they haven't got to just be kept away from them. What about the Pep side of the story? Are you sick of seeing him win everything, or is it City?
Probably more so City because the way that they had a massive injection of funds. Where like at least when he was at Barca, it's like he brought in like a lot of these. Like, I think there was like that Champions League winning team. I think the second Champions League winning team, like I think 7 or 8 of the starting 11 came through the through the academy. So, like, you know how there's like right and wrong ways to build a club
No,
and build
but
a team and
what?
stuff like that. Like, it was. I know Barcelona have money, but they've accumulated it in a different way, and I don't know. Yeah, it's that whole thing like right and wrong ways to build a club. Like, if you want to take a small club and then inject it with funds to build it up and get it to that level, then why shouldn't you be allowed to do that? Yeah, it's I don't know. Like, it's different. Let's just say, put it that way.
Yeah, there's for me, there's no right and wrong in terms of that sort of question. There's pros and cons to either side, but
No, I think when you're
I
spending
don't
a
know.
billion dollars, because I think they have spent $1 billion
But that's what
during
football
Pep's
is
time. During
now.
Pep's
The
time, though.
prices in the Premier League are just insane right now. So I think it's easy to go that because it's Manchester City, and obviously in just over 10 years ago, they had a massive injection that has helped take them to this next level. But all clubs are needing to spend that kind of money nowadays. So I think it's just a bit of an easy target. Manchester City, they have all this money and they use it to buy their things. Yes, that's somewhat true, but you still need to win your things, and you still need to. And the other clubs cotton onto that, and they say, well, we need to spend close to that much money. I mean, Liverpool have obviously broke their wage structure to accommodate Mo Salah last season. Even clubs like that are doing that. So I don't think there's as big a difference between clubs like that, like Liverpool and Manchester City, as the perception is. It's just that's what football is. Money needs to be spent to be at that level, and yeah, like great managers manage at great clubs, and they're going to spend great amounts of money
Yeah,
because they are great clubs.
and I
So
know the
yeah,
counter argument is like, oh well, if these clubs can't get an injection of funds from wherever they may come from, then you're always going to get like the top four being the same, like United, which is an established club, Arsenal, which is an established club, um, Liverpool, which is an established club, and then I don't know who the fourth would necessarily be, but like you're always going to get these established clubs with like the rich history and the money already there, winning everything. If you don't get these newcomers like City, like Newcastle now, I know Newcastle they are a big club, but now that they have an injection of funds, they can actually compete as well. PSG as well, like Lyon won it. Was it 8 times in a row, 7 times in a row? They won Ligue 1, and now PSG with their injection of funds, they can compete at that level. So yeah, like if otherwise, yeah, you're always going to get the same winners, and you're never going to get these newcomers, so that they can then establish their new history, and then in 50 years' time, they're going to be an established club, and no one's going to really be. I don't know. Maybe they will be complaining about, 50 years ago, you guys got an injection of a couple $1 billion to actually start off. But it's like, well, sometimes you need to start somewhere. You need a foundation.
yeah, for sure, and that helps, but it's not the be all and end all. What the be all and end all is what goes onto the pitch, and we've seen a lot of clubs get taken over and have a lot of money spent. I mean, you could point to Fulham spending 100 mil when they got up to the Premier League those couple of seasons ago, and they were shit. So money doesn't get you anything. It's you look at Newcastle, and I don't think they've spent probably as much as they could, given the wealth
They haven't
of who
really.
they're backed by now. Yeah, but I look at what's on the pitch, and I'm just like, this is amazing. This is just a really good team. They work so hard for each other. They work so hard for the fans of the club. They understand what it means to play for that club, and it's really awesome to see. So regardless of the morality of where the money comes from or anything like that, that's not for me to discuss. I think there's so many shades of grey. We could discuss that until we're blue in the face. But what I see on the football pitch is really awesome, and that's what I take my judgment away from. So yeah, I don't know. It's
Um,
just football nowadays doesn't need to be overstated. The money, really. I wish the money was scaled back though. Don't get me wrong. There's no need to be spending as much money as there is in football nowadays. It's obscene.
and look, just while we wrap this up, like this part up, and then like we go on to the other European leagues. Um, Really quick question: if City do win that first one, you know how like last pod or 2 pods ago we talked about players walking past the trophy cabinet, and even though for instance, at some clubs like AC Milan, they haven't won the Champions League for, what was it, 15 years, 17 years?
16 now,
Yeah,
16,
so
yeah, oh 07.
this current crop of players have never won the Champions League. But they walk past, is it 7 Champions Leagues? Like every day when they're going, they're going through the club rooms and stuff like that. So they know the tradition of the club, and at least I pointed out that I think that's probably why it's ingrained in these clubs like Liverpool as well. When they won it in, was it 18-19? That current, was there any Champions League winners in that team? I don't think so.
No, but we did make the final the season before.
I know, but still,
hell.
there was no Champions League winners in there. Yes, you made the final, but there was no Champions League winners in there. But you walk past 6 trophies when you're walking around the club every single day, so you know it's ingrained in the club. If City get their first one, do you think then it will lead to them getting maybe over the next 10 years another 2, potentially 3?
It's so hard to predict. It's so hard to predict.
But it'll then start to be ingrained in their culture.
No, I get it, and I think when they get themselves to that spot again, they will feel more at ease, even as a club, as we saw. Chelsea somewhat flukily on the night against Bayern Munich somehow win that game, but then they go back there in 2021 and they have one, and Manchester City have none, and I don't know. It's weird. You can't. It's obviously not the main reason why results happen, of course, but it's just something about this competition. Something about the prestige of this competition, where even historically, if your club has 1, 2, 3, however many, use the Klopp reference, and it's interesting. He goes into the final in 2013, and he's the smaller club. He's Borussia Dortmund against Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich have the history, and those two teams, in terms of what they do football wise, were very evenly matched, but. Maybe it comes down to that sort of just the footballing gods just looking upon the royalty of Europe, and obviously not always making sure they get the result, but you've got a better chance. And then the flip side, in 2019, he goes into the final, and the club he's managing has won 5, and Tottenham have never sniffed one. This is the closest they have come. So yeah, I don't know. Obviously, in the future, I think it will give them like a decimal point of a percentage advantage. But I think it's just for City and for Pep in particular, it'd be a great achievement to finally break through and win one for this sort of new club, like we were talking about. New club. I know Manchester City have a history, but they've never been this good in European
This successful.
brilliance terms. Yeah, exactly. So, and for Pep himself, he hasn't won one since 2011, which is mad to think, because this guy is clearly the best manager in the world still, and that's why when we talk about 10 years time, I don't know, I can't predict it, because it depends on Pep Guardiola, and it depends on, are people going to catch Pep Guardiola? We need to see the next group of managers start to catch and start to try and dethrone this guy, because man, he's outlasting generations as we speak. It's crazy. Like you think that who his peers were when he was coming through at Barcelona, and I guess Ancelotti is the other one who's outlasting. But it's a very special environment at Real Madrid that he has right now with those players, and I don't see that being sustainable. Obviously, given the ages of everyone involved, really. But yeah, you think Mourinho is no longer elite, not at that level, not at the Guardiola level, and he was the main rival. Klopp, there's another storyline for next season. How Liverpool and his team come back, and whether he can compete with Guardiola. But yeah, so 10 years is too long to look over that landscape. It's crazy to think what could happen in that time. But one thing that doesn't look like it's changing anytime soon is that Guardiola is going to be the consensus best manager in the world, and if you have that guy and you have the resources that Manchester City have, and you manage to break through and get one now, you've got to think the future looks bright in terms of creating some sort of European dynasty.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll find out in a month's time, I guess.
Yeah, we'll do the recap in 10 years' time.
Hey,
Remember that question?
yeah. Hey, when is the Champions League final? Let me just check if they have the date set. 10th of June. So yeah, in a month and a bit time, we will find out if Pep can start some kind of European dynasty with City.
Would find out earlier if Real Madrid knock him out.
Yeah, there you go. Let's move on. Let's wrap it up with a bit of a European roundup. We've talked about England and City and whatnot for long enough. Caleb, didn't you say you want to keep this pod to an hour, maybe potentially 45 minutes? We spoke for 50 minutes about
we always get
a little bit of randomness, a little bit of everything. So yeah, I'll give the reins to you.
Well, before you give me the reins, where would you like to start? I like throwing it back to you and see what you're most interested in.
Look, let's end the pod on Italy.
Ah, yes, good choice.
Yeah. So like,
where are
I know Arsenal Chelsea are tonight, but I don't have too much to say in the preview to that. I really don't have too much, so I'd rather just review it. So we'll keep that as a review. So yeah, let's end it on Italy.
And where do you want to start?
France can be the second last thing. Italy's the dessert.
The dessert.
Yeah.
All right, let's
round up Spain.
Man.
Spain's I think pretty much already done. Spain, Germany, France, Italy. Do it that way.
Yeah, well, we'll start in Germany because.
Not listening to me.
Yeah, we will because we want to start like somewhat strong. Yeah, sorry, man. We want to start somewhat strong where there's something interesting, and I don't want to be mean to Spanish football right now, but there is very little interesting happening in Spain.
Yeah.
But I guess we already touched on Dortmund drawing at Bochum on the Friday night fixture, which opened the door obviously for Bayern to go forth and reclaim top spot in the league, which they did in mighty unconvincing fashion against a very poor and struggling Hertha Berlin side at home at the Allianz. I don't think it was quite boos at halftime, but there definitely wasn't applause. There definitely was murmurs. It was. I don't think the Bayern faithful liked what they saw, and again, it was just immensely boring from Bayern. It was just crazy, and you think of how many dynamic players they have in that team, and they produce something so abject. And like, I can't sit here and say, oh man, like I knew Nagelsmann was the right man the whole time. I had my question marks about Nagelsmann. I thought at times they were too expansive. But this, I don't know. I want to start to see some sort of direction from Tuchel. I want to see where he wants to take the club or the team, at least tactically, and then we can sort out the direction that he wants to take the club in the future, if there is a long future for Tuchel, as I keep saying. But I still haven't even seen a tactical direction. I haven't seen any imprints on it. I think they just have good players, and they're good enough to get past Hertha Berlin. And on the topic of good players, I know I prefer him in a different position, but Joshua Kimmich with those passes, he's trademarked where he just gets the ball. He had for the first Gnabry goal, he sort of got the ball. I swear he was almost within the width of the goals, and somehow he put enough curl and enough dink to get it like up and around and behind the defense from no angle, and Gnabry comes in with a diving header, and then later he produces another beautiful dink for Coman to make it the 2-0. And honestly, for Bayern, thank God for Joshua Kimmich and his playmaking, because if they didn't have him in this game, I didn't see where the goal was going to come from, and I'm worried. Another thing that I'll somewhat criticize Tuchel, these aren't full criticisms because, again, he hasn't been at the club very long, but I don't like the lack of emphasis he's putting on Jamal Musiala in this attack. He sort of tucks him away on the left-hand side for this game. I don't think that's really ever the option, especially if it's to accommodate Serge Gnabry and Thomas Muller in the middle. Look, Thomas Muller, a lot of people keep saying he should be playing in these big games and stuff. It's like, all right, he's fine, but Jamal Musiala is a different level of player for me at the moment. And maybe he wants him down the stretch for the experience in terms of Thomas Muller, but I want to see if Thomas Tuchel is there for the long term. Surely Jamal Musiala is the guy that you're putting, I'd say, pretty much all of your weight behind in terms of the attacking and building an attack around him, especially now that as we sit now they don't have that striker. I am happy that he's playing Sadio Mane more and he's starting him, and I think he's more of an answer than the alternatives. But yeah, the Jamal Musiala sort of stall, and now whether that's just him being young and having to play so much football this season and him just sort of hitting a wall, I wouldn't put that. I would say that might be an explanation for it, but I also would say tactically, I don't think Tuchel's putting him in the right positions to succeed, and for me, that's a sin because I think this guy is that good, and I think this guy could be a Ballon d'Or winner in the future. So yeah, it's not going to shock you that we're starting off the European recap with me somewhat criticizing Thomas Tuchel and what I'm seeing from Bayern, but I don't like it. It's directionless at the moment. I need to see more, but they could still win the title because Dortmund have given it back to them if they want it.
Yeah, look, it's just I don't know what to think of it. Maybe he's just trying to get through this season so that he can actually have a proper preseason with this team and implement his ideas, because it's too risky to start implementing his ideas with only like with the title race not wrapped up and there only being 4 games remaining. So maybe that's why he's playing Muller as well for this stretch. Because isn't Muller like 34 or 35? So he's close to that
Yeah,
retirement age. Um, so yeah, that I suspect that's at least my theory that get through these 4 games, wrap up the league, and then get a preseason under his belt, start implementing his ideas, and then start next season fresh.
well, add that storyline to the list of ones we've already done, and why I'm so excited for next season is Thomas Tuchel still an elite manager conversation? Let's see if we'll be having that 10 games
Hang
into the
on, wait,
season next
just
season.
quickly with that, would you have put him as an elite manager if he didn't win the Champions League with Chelsea?
No, I
So
wouldn't.
why are we putting him in?
I agree with you. I think it's a flimsy case, but why he's been put in is because where's the competition? Where's the other elite managers?
Well, how many do you need to really have? Is 3 enough with Klopp, Pep, and Carlo?
Well, there's another question mark. Is Klopp still elite? Klopp's only won one of them, so they've won the same amount. But Klopp has produced better teams in a domestic sense. He's obviously won the title with Dortmund. They both had a go. To be fair, Tuchel, I think, only managed when Pep was there, so that made it a lot harder. But Heinkes was no mug, and that Bayern team won the treble when Klopp was doing good things with Dortmund. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe three's enough. Maybe Tuchel is on the outside looking in. I if they don't start strongly next season, I will be prepared to strip that away from him. But I think tactically, Tuchel, what we've seen from his teams, he's been a very good manager in his career. I think emotionally, I don't like what I see most of the time. But that's coming from a guy who loves Jurgen Klopp, so you can take that with a grain of salt if you want to, because he's one of the most emotional managers out there. But I just feel like it always looks like on the touchline that, and maybe this is why Chelsea fans loved him because he was so involved, I guess, to use that word again. But it almost looked like he was talking shit about his players to his assistants when he was on the bench to me. Like if someone did something wrong, he would be visibly frustrated. He'd be like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing that for?" And it's like, I never really like my managers to show that. You can do that behind closed doors if you think a player is continually making those kind of mistakes. But when it's like mistake things and it's individual errors, I just think that's where it's kind of wasted energy, and you don't need all the fans to see that because that's not good for a player, and the player doesn't need to either feel or hear the manager sort of doing that on the touchline. So yeah, I just think sometimes in terms of that he's a bit waste, but tactically, I up until this point, I haven't been able to fault him. But I will say I don't think it's. I think what went on with his personal life last season, I think the toll that took and the toll that managing Chelsea through that transitional period after what happened with Abramovich, um, this stuff doesn't easily go away. So I put Conte and Tuchel in the same bracket in terms of next season. like, are you still good or have you got too much scar tissue? Because it could be. I think I used it for Conte when I was talking about this. This could be the Mourinho at Man United moment where it's just like, hey, you're not actually at that level anymore, and whether that's your fault or not, but you just have too much scar tissue at this point, and it's. I think that's a real thing. It's like managers are like they're almost like boxers or fighters, and they got to work their way up the ranks, and things are going to happen. They're going to take hits. If they are working their way up the rank and they get beaten, then they go back like tremendously. Like Graham Potter, for example. What kind of club is he looking to manage next because of what happened to him at Chelsea?
Yeah.
He's going to go back three or four steps, maybe to a bottom half Premier League team again, or something like that. So that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, managers, I just feel like they're a bit like fighters, and yeah, that storyline's going to be fascinating in itself next season. But in terms of what else happened in the Bundesliga, I don't know because they decided not to show the rest of the game. So I didn't get to watch Union Berlin against Leverkusen. It was a 0-0 draw, so maybe I'm thankful for that. Leverkusen's top four hopes. Yeah, Leverkusen's top four hopes might be out. We were talking about if Union Berlin won that game, that they were only 3 points off Bayern, I think, in top place. So, or 4 points.
4 points.
Yeah, 4 points. So, Freiburg, I think, are level on points with them.
RB
And
won.
then, yeah, and Leipzig also won. So, that top four race, I think it's interesting. But yeah, I think it's those three teams now, and obviously,
Yeah, I think Leverkusen are knocked since they couldn't get the win. I think their top four hopes are done.
but importantly, their Champions League hopes are not done because they have the Europa League to look
Yeah.
forward to, and that semi final against Roma, who we'll talk about, I guess, a little bit later. But and then we'll go to France, and not much happened in France because, well, in terms of the top three playing, I don't even think Monaco played this weekend. I didn't watch them because their game either wasn't televised or it hasn't happened yet. But they had the Coupe de France final, so Lens didn't play. I'm pretty sure they play Toulouse tomorrow morning, so there might be something to dissect in the later
Yeah,
pod.
they're playing tonight.
Yeah. But Marseille were able to salvage a win at home to Auxerre. And honestly, the first 20 minutes of this game against Auxerre looked like Newcastle against Tottenham without the goals. Because Marseille were absolutely battering Auxerre. They were killing them. And they never got the goal. And then Auxerre strike with a bolt from the blue. A fantastic volley from probably 25 to 30 yards. It was well hit. Goalkeeper was a little bit out of his goal, so it didn't look as good as maybe it could have, but still a fantastic goal. But I tell you, that boy Alexis Sanchez, I'm loving watching him play. I'm loving watching him being a leading man. It is funny because I said a couple of weeks ago I wouldn't really change my opinion on many teams in Europe. Well, I'm softening a bit on Marseille. I think they're a decent to good team. I'm not gonna go crazy because I don't think their quality in midfield or defense is where it needs to be if they want to maybe get out of the group stage of the Champions League. But I will say I think they're trying to do the right things. They play proactively, especially at the Velodrome. They're a fun team to watch because that home support sort of urges them on. They remind me a little bit of AC Milan last season, except without AC Milan have far better quality in some areas, although I do like the Vitinha Alexis Sanchez combination up front. I think it wasn't Vitinha's night, but I think he's looked impressive since he's moved from, I think, Braga. Cengiz Under is playing all right as well from the wing, so they have some nice pieces up front, but they're so proactive. They play the man-to-man system. So what we've seen this season is when they come up against good teams and why they couldn't get out of the Champions League group stage and why they lost so convincingly to PSG at home in that crucial league game about however long it was, 2 months or a month and a half ago. Good teams just pick them apart with their movement, and that man-to-man system really kills you if you're not quite up to that level. And that's why they remind me of Milan, because Milan last season obviously suffered the same thing. Good teams would pick them apart, and they finished, I think, bottom of the group in the Champions League. So yeah, I think what's helped Milan this season is the fact that they suffered in the middle part of the season. They had to go back to, let's just be a solid defensive team. And now look at where they are. They're in the Champions League semi-finals. And they played very stodgy football to get there. A 1-0 against Tottenham and the
2-1.
2-1 over against Napoli over the aggregate. So all built on defense, and I think ultimately that's helped them in the Champions League. Ultimately, it might not have helped them in the league, and we'll get to that later. But yeah, I'm prepared to say Marseille are at least a good team, and with Alexis Sanchez up front playing well, good to see. But one team who are definitely not a good team right now is Paris Saint-Germain, because they are doing their absolute best to lose this league title. They are almost saying to Lens or Marseille, and interestingly, they meet on the weekend. If Lens can get through their game against Toulouse and keep up that pressure, then the winner of that might be in a title race. I'm not going to say that this early, but my God, PSG are woeful. They are woeful. They are so bad. Achraf Hakimi gets himself sent off for 2 yellow cards, I think inside 30 minutes in this game. I think they might have already been a goal down, in fact. I think they were already a goal down.
Inside 20 minutes.
Yeah, inside 20 minutes. And then Kylian Mbappe, if you haven't seen this goal, scores
I saw it. I was like, what the hell? Like,
I don't know what the goalkeeper was thinking, because I never heard a whistle. I never saw anyone indicate for a free kick. It wasn't one of those ones where he was like rolling it out because he thought there was no one around him. Like Mbappe was right there. He could see him.
Yeah.
And he just sort of threw it on the ground, and Mbappe just
He
scored.
must have thought that it was a free kick because there was like a commotion before the ball was picked up.
But if the referee doesn't signal and there's no whistle, I don't know why you'd think that. So it was a moment of madness, but ultimately it still didn't matter because PSG still shipped more goals. I don't know why playing Marquinhos as the right back after Hakimi gets sent off is ever the solution when you're trying to defend with 10 men. Marquinhos needs to be in the middle of the defence, but Galtier's not going to be there for much longer. PSG, there's another storyline. What do PSG look like next season? Because, man, this team needs an overhaul. They're terrible after the World Cup. And we flagged it, but I didn't think... Well, it might be a bit strong saying I didn't think it could fall apart to this level, because they probably will still win the league, but they don't deserve to. I would much rather see Marseille or Lens win the league in France. PSG have been terrible.
You reckon Conte
To be fair, they were good before the World Cup.
I don't think he'd suit them at all. I think that there's too much player power and the board won't back him. They'll back the players.
But as the way this season has finished, like, if that doesn't give you a reality check as PSG ownership, I don't know what will. So that's fascinating in itself. Do PSG come back with a different game plan? I would 100%. I would come up with a game plan that just builds around Kylian Mbappe. For me,
Luis Enrique's still out there as well.
Yeah, the killer for me was not only the Neymar signing, but then the Messi signing on top of it. I think when you have Kylian Mbappe, and maybe Neymar at the time was a good signing because Mbappe was so young, but when they added Messi, you can't have 3 players like that. You can't have Messi on the down. You can't have a Messi who won't work. You can't have a Neymar who won't work and a Mbappe who won't work. So what are we doing? You can have one of those guys, and I'm pretty sure who 99% of people would choose. I would say 100% of people at least should choose to build around out of those 3. It's got to be Kylian Mbappe, and they've got to get players with more work ethic around him, and they've got to build a unit around him. I think that's the way forward, but it'll be interesting to see what the ownership want to do in the summer. But there's another storyline. Add that to the list.
Well, all rumours are that Messi's going to leave, whether that's to Barcelona or to Saudi Arabia. That's another question that I guess will get answered during the summer. But with the Barcelona one, it's a good transition as well. Apparently the Barcelona players aren't willing to accept a wage cut to accommodate Messi being signed.
Fair enough. Messi doesn't deserve a wage cut. He needs to be earning, I don't know, like a level contract, but not the highest paid player at the club. No way. I think, honestly, I just don't think it'll be good for Barcelona. would say
Yeah, I don't
Messi.
think it'll be good either.
Yeah, I think they got a different identity at the moment, and it's about making that work. I'm interested to see if they're an anomaly next season. I must say, because honestly, I think it's hard. It's harsh. I don't think I can quite say this about Atletico, but definitely for the second half of the season, they've been better than Barcelona for me. And Real Madrid, I think, are just have better players, and for me, are a better team than Barcelona as well. But the table does not tell that, and the table at this stage of the season, at least, shouldn't lie. But I'm interested to see what happens next season. But Barcelona, just like most of the teams who ended up winning in La Liga this weekend, or the bigger teams, made it look easy at home against Betis. And Betis, man, they got their 13th red card of the season in this game. Um, they got a man sent off in, I think it's like 30 minutes as well. And the game was a no contest. The game might have been a no contest before then, but the game was a definite no contest after then. And Barcelona romped away. Betis are falling. I think they're ready to go on holiday. I think they're out of any hopes of top four. And it's down to their own lack of discipline throughout the season because they've had a few of these games where players have just lacked composure, lacked their heads, and they've paid dearly for it. So ultimately, I don't know what's going on there. You wouldn't imagine that Pellegrini's the type of manager who's a strict disciplinarian. So maybe they haven't got that instilled in them as a group. But honestly, it's foolishness. 13 red cards for the season. That is madness. Come on. That is way too many red cards. But one little thing that I'll flag is I think Rafinha might be working his way into the conversation for one of the right winger spots in one of my teams towards the end of the season. I think he's been, given Lewandowski's poor form after the World Cup, this guy's probably been Barcelona, and given Pedri's injury, he's probably been Barcelona's best creative force in the run-in. And Barcelona still have really good form up until this point in the second half of the season. They've needed to rely on someone to create something going forward, and I think for the most part, that guy has been Rafinha more consistently than anyone else. So that coupled with, I think, a lack of depth in that position once you look past Bukayo Saka. I know I was struggling to get players into that second. I had to push Griezmann out there and Koulibaly Moani. So those two factors together, I think it'd be remiss of me not to say that Rafinha deserves a lot of consideration when it comes to picking those teams because I think he scored one in this game, but he definitely created the first with a beautiful cross. So that's something I'm flagging. Another thing I'm flagging, and this will seem really trivial, is the pitch at the Bernabeu. I was reading up has been relayed 6 times this season, and it was looking dodgy in their home game on the weekend. So I don't know who that advantages more when Manchester City go there, given the Manchester City aren't really a possession-based team anymore. So maybe it'll be good for Manchester City, but yeah, that pitch is looking dodgy and not one that you should be seeing at the Bernabeu. But I get it; it's because they're doing all the renovations and whatnot. But still, yeah, dodgy looking pitch. But someone who is not looking dodgy is Karim Benzema, who I believe got his 3rd hat trick for the month. And he's now a couple of goals behind Lewandowski in the scoring race in Spain, given that he missed a big chunk of this season. And also, I've been flagging in recent weeks, but it was obviously the Vinny and Benzema show, but Rodrigo is starting to make that a front three because his performances recently have been really good. And, you know, if he continues to perform like this, it'll be hard for Ancelotti not to play him in the first leg at the Bernabeu, especially at home. And it'll be hard not to start referring to them as a front three and all three of them together because, yeah, given his age, given he's a couple, 1 or 2 years younger than Vinny, he's kind of on the same path. He's on the same trajectory. He's making the same improvements that you kind of saw from Vinny early on. So it helps that he already has an established Vinny and Benzema to feed off. But yeah, that front three could be a scary one. I'd like to say for seasons to come, but we don't know how many seasons Benzema has at this level. But when he plays, he shows no sign of slowing down. He's still, I would say, well, there's two candidates, and there's probably more, but in terms of my favourite players to watch, Karim Benzema and Antoine Griezmann would be right up there because they do. I just love their supreme intelligence, but they're also so silky. They can weight passes so beautifully. They finish, they create, they just do everything. They're such good players. I love seeing these old guys be the focal points of these teams. And yeah, like I was saying, Atletico continue to be, disappointingly for them, one of the best teams in Europe because they would, like I keep saying, have a real shot at either the Champions League or at least the Europa League if they're still in that competition. And we know that Simeone loves to win a Europa League. So, like I keep saying, they've got to be kicking themselves. But again, they look really good. They get Depay back from injury. He scores the fifth to round off a 5-2 win at Valladolid. And again, it was another game. The theme in Spain were these teams were scoring a lot of goals inside the first 30 minutes, and the game was pretty much over around that mark. Because Real Madrid did it, Barcelona did it, and Atletico did it. Although Valladolid fought back a little bit, they made it 3-2 at one point. So not completely all Atletico's way, but yeah, I think they look like a really good team, really settled team. Maybe it's a bit by default because I haven't been impressed by much of Spain, but yeah, I mean, there's another storyline. I want to see where Atletico are in the table after 15 games next season because the way they're playing now, I expect a title challenge next season. In fact, the way they're playing now, I'd put them as my favourites for the title next season. But yeah,
Do you
the other game.
do you
Yeah,
think
sorry, go on.
that Atletico are missing a player or two in terms of who they need to sign to actually be like a legit title challenger, or is this team fine enough for a 38 game season?
I think they can find an upgrade on Savage, who normally plays next to Jimenez. They need Jimenez fit all season because I think he's a really good defender. We'll see what kind of Reynildo they get back next season. I must say, Hermoso never fills me with that much confidence, but he has been good, deputising for Reynildo for the rest of this season. Apart from that, I think the rest of the team is good. Maybe a holding midfielder because how long can you trust Koke and his legs going into next season? But he has been really good for the second half of this season. Thomas Lemar is solid. He's maybe not the 60 million player we thought they were getting from Monaco, but he's at least solid and serviceable now. Marcos Llorente, I absolutely love, especially when he's playing as the right central midfielder. Even Molina as the right wing back has looked really good. Carrasco is kind of the new, well, maybe not new because he's been doing it for years now, but he's Ivan Perisic-like in terms of being a winger who plays as that wing back and gives the team balance in that position. They need Antoine Griezmann to continue playing to this level because he is one of the best players in Europe when he plays at this level, and he's been showing it. In terms of Morata or whoever plays next to him, hopefully they get Memphis Depay fit for all of next season because if they get him fit and it's Griezmann and Depay next to each other, I think that's a really good front line. And then you've got Morata as an option who could be more physical. You've got Correa as backup as well. So honestly, the squad, the team, they're kind of like Juve for me in that they're settled in this 5-3-2 now. But for me, Atletico have far more quality than Juve, and they're a better team than Juve because of that quality. So yeah, maybe just that centre back next to Savage. Who it would be? You know my thoughts on who it should be. I think they should go all out on getting Josko Gvardiol, put him next to Jimenez, and that would also give them an option to go four at the back as well. I think so. And the other staggering one, I think Jan Oblak is still only 29. That's crazy to think. He hasn't been playing in recent
Goalkeepers
weeks.
can play till like the 36.
I know, and he can
stuff.
play for whatever. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I've really liked what Atletico are doing. And just finally, the last storyline, apart from who finishes above who in terms of the Madrid clubs, is I guess Villarreal deserve a mention for still sticking close enough to Sociedad. But Sociedad have been big winners recently because they've won their last two and at least opened up the gap on Betis. But Villarreal were able to win their game against Espanyol at home. I would say comfortably, but they did their best to make it uncomfortable for themselves. Danny Parejo got a penalty in the 30th minute or so to make it 3-0. And if you want to see a really bad Panenka, it's not quite Totti's Panenka that he chipped into the goalkeeper's hands and then shoved the goalkeeper. But this one almost looked like a rugby conversion. He put it that far over the bar. He chipped it miles over the bar, and I just watch it. Like, what the hell was that? And this is one of the best technicians of a football in all of Europe, I think, Danny Parejo. So terrible penalty. That's what Villarreal do. They make it hard for themselves, but eventually they walked away with the win. And they've got Valencia in the midweek, and Sociedad have to, I think, play Real Madrid. I think tomorrow morning or Thursday morning. So we'll touch on those results. But if results go the right way, we could have somewhat of a challenge for
Real Madrid
Villarreal.
at home. At
exactly.
Sociedad.
So that will be something to look out for in the midweek. But yeah, Spain, I don't know. It's not really encapsulating me, but at least Antoine Griezmann and Karim Benzema are really good. And we'll finish, and I know we'll probably go closer to an hour and a half now, but we'll finish on what you wanted to finish on. I think what everyone wants to finish on, and that's Syria. And man, Syria, I guess following the theme of football the last couple of weeks, this weekend was really anticlimactic because we had the big story and the scenes in Naples. It was also, let's set the scene. It's Sunday. It's early morning. I believe it's a bank holiday the next day, so they've all got the Monday off. Everyone's congregated around to the Maradona. There's all the blue smoke and the flares going up. Everyone's waving their flags. We're all ready to celebrate. Lazio have lost it into earlier in the day, so we know that a win at home against Salernitana will wrap up the league title. We'll score a goal from a corner from Matthias Nunez in like the 70th minute or whatever it is. It's like, all right, Napoli, they're gonna clinch the title. Everyone can celebrate. Everyone can get on it tonight because it's a bank holiday tomorrow, and we can just go nuts. Everyone's ready to go nuts. Well, Salernitana and Buladia had other ideas. It was a very nice goal, I must say. But what an anticlimax, because the city of Napoli will have to wait until midweek where they play Udinese, where I believe a point is enough to wrap up the title. So you probably got to think that they're not going to go to Udinese and lose, although maybe they just want to set it up so they can win it at home.
Yeah, maybe they
this
lose
was
on
all
purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
Bit of
But this was
Italian
all
match
set
fixing.
up. Yeah. But this was all set up for them to finally do it on this Sunday, and they blew it, and that was a big anticlimax. But following the theme, it was not a good weekend for teams in Sky Blue, because I am worried for my boys. I'm worried for Lazio, who make it 2 losses on the spin. And this game was a microcosm of what their last 2 weeks have been, because it was a game where you think, given that their defensive solidity, that they went into this game as the best defense in the league, given that Acerbi just gives them an absolute gift of a first goal, it was taken nicely by. I was very impressed by Luis Alberto's pass back to Felipe Anderson in the build-up instead of shooting. And I'm not always a big fan of Luis Alberto, but I thought his playmaking in that moment was really good. 1-0 up. We're going into the last quarter of the game. Everything's cozy. And why I say it's a microcosm, because this is where Lazio were 2 weeks ago. Juve weren't in the mix. They had their 15-point penalty. And other teams weren't finding this form, and Lazio were 10 points clear in second position of 5th place. And now it all flips. Just like it did in the game, the whole story flips, and now they're clinging on. Well, they're still second, to be fair, but they are somewhat... That gap has closed immensely. I think it's 6 points between second and 7th. And yeah, they could conceivably finish 7th. Now, I don't expect them to finish 7th, but they could conceivably finish 7th. And in this game, they lose a 1-0 lead, and not only do they lose it, where you think, well, Inter might score 1 goal, but surely this Lazio defense won't capitulate. Well, they capitulate. They concede 3 goals in the last quarter of an hour in this game. And I felt bad for him because I thought Providel was on his way to getting his redemption for the Torino game last week, where he lets an absolute howler. And he didn't make any mistakes, to be fair, but he couldn't do enough to stop those 3 goals after already making a few good saves. I thought Casale and centre back was having one of the best performances I'd seen a defender have since last week in Danilo and Kim Min Jae had their defensive duel, but he looked awesome, and then it all crumbled. He didn't really make mistakes, but was ineffectual to keep out the 3 goals. And on the Inter side of it, they finally looked like the Inter that we expected to see at the start of the season. In that Lautaro didn't start this game, but he came on and he scored the equaliser. He was playing up front next to Romelu Lukaku. Marcelo Brozovic, who Romelu Lukaku assisted the go-ahead goal for Gersons, but he was playing next to Romelu Lukaku. Marcelo Brozovic was playing in central midfield. Hakan Çalhanoğlu was playing next to him. Barella was playing on the other side. Denzel Dumfries was in the team. Federico Di Marco was in the team, although not in the wing-back position you'd expect. So the only guy they were missing, really, was Skriniar. And it's like, all right, this Inter team actually looks like the team we thought we'd see this season with at least a sprinkling of world-class players in, or at least close to world-class players in Brozovic, Barella, and Lautaro. And then you've got Lukaku. Could he be the man that he was last time he was at Inter? Well, he's starting to show at least the glimpses of it, the 2 goals he scored last weekend and the assist he gets this weekend. So it might have been 2 assists, in fact. So Inter were able to turn it around. You could tell this was a huge win for Inter, must win. And in terms of over-celebrating benches, I know Arsenal have copped a bit of stick for being over, but Inter are terrible at it, man. Every time they score any half-important goal, the whole bench clears out or are on the pitch. Remember at the Camp Nou, the new camp where they thought they'd won the game only to be pegged back again? Well, this time they didn't get pegged back, thankfully for them, but they were off the bench again. And to be fair, it was a very important win because they needed to win this game. And now we have 3 teams who are all level on
57.
50. Before I get to that, I also want to say, there was 2 things, because in terms of Lazio were able to make their situation worse by Romagnoli putting in an absolute brainless tackle in the 98th minute that gets him a yellow card and he's suspended next week. And he's been a big part of that rock-solid Lazio defence. And also, I'm a little bit worried for Sergej Milinkovic-Savic because I need him to look better than he did in this game. I thought Brozovic outplayed him comfortably, was the far more influential central midfielder in this game, and I need Milinkovic-Savic to show up in these big games, and he didn't really in this game. Although Lazio looked like they were going to get their 1-0 win, they sort of sat back in the second half, and that's where maybe they sat back too much and they invited a bit too much into pressure. But yeah, fair play to Inter, who, like we say, tied on 57 points with Roma and Milan, who drew 1-1 with each other in these battles of Milan versus Rome. Also, it must be said it was a good weekend for teams in black and white stripes because Atalanta were also able to win away at Torino. Good thing for them, they got Duvan Zapata.
Black and blue.
Black and blue. Yeah, I didn't mean black and white. But yeah, they went away to Torino. They didn't look too convincing, but they got Duvan Zapata looking like 2019 Duvan Zapata, who scores a really good goal to win it late on, in late drama that was quickly becoming the theme of the Serie A weekend, because in the Milan-Roma game, which was, I must say, a pretty terrible game up until 90 minutes plus. But then when that stoppage time came around, then everything changed, because during the game, I mean, it got to the point where, first of all, we have... Look, I got to say, we have Ismail Benacer playing as the number 10. Do I like it? He's okay there. He needs to get more physical so that he can make more runs in behind. But I do like the runs he does make in behind when he can. I do like the way he could supplement the other midfielders and help out defensively. I think he's not going to light the world on fire, but he's very functional in there. I think that's what Milan like in terms of their midfielders. When you look at the fact that they go with Krunic, they go with Tonali, and they go with Benacer as their preferred midfield now. So I think they've got what they like. Is it great? No, it's not great to watch, but it's functional. I'll give them that. So he's doing a job at number 10. We also said Brian Cristante for Roma players as centre back late this game, and honestly, I think he's a good enough defensive player that he could do that. Kind of in the Casemiro mold that I think he's just such a good defender, and it doesn't matter what position he plays, he'll be good and solid defensively anywhere. So that was interesting to see. But it got to the point in this game, and this is indicative of Tammy Abraham's season. He was beyond the point of missing chances to the point where he was actively stopping goals because he unbelievably got in the way of what looked like not quite a tap-in for Pellegrini, but a pretty easy finish from inside the 6-yard box. And Abraham was trying to jump over it, and he got it with his foot, and he blocked it away. And it was just like, my God, man. Could this season be going any worse for this guy? I guess Robo could be struggling more, so there'd be more scrutiny on him, but he's having a terrible season. But stoppage time comes around, and everything reverses in terms of what happens in this game. Tammy Abraham makes up for that block and some, and Roma look like they're going to win this game. Milan looked like they're a free fall. But of course, we hadn't yet had Rafael Leao's impact on the game, and it was bound to come, and it did come, where he delivers a really nicely flighted cross to the back post. We also didn't have Salamak as the super sub have his impact on the game, but we did now because he gets on the end of it and he scores. And all of a sudden, we have a 1-1 draw when it looks like this game was never going to get a goal. I reckon if you got the stopwatch on this game of how much game time there was, I was hesitate to guess 35 minutes. It just seemed like every time I looked up at the screen, someone was on the ground injured again. I was just like, what the hell is this? What the hell am I trying to watch here? What a terrible match until stoppage time, but what a mad finish. And yeah, it leaves us in a situation where we have three team tied on 57 points. I think Juve are only 2 points ahead of that.
And
or
did
3
Mourinho
points
get a red for the 97th minute equaliser?
He did not, from memory. If that's a question.
Strange.
I don't think he did. Mourinho was pretty subdued in this game, I must say.
I can see him cracking the shits at something like that.
Yeah, I think he was half asleep, I gotta say, because the game must have been putting everyone to sleep. So he was quite subdued. But yeah, and I was. What was I? Yeah, so I
Three
think
teams on 57,
Juve,
and then
Juve are what, two points ahead? I think maybe.
I think so. And let me double
Yeah,
check.
so, and they could only draw 1-1 at Bologna, who I think in the first half they looked pretty good. Juve, they just ran up into an inspired goalkeeper. Second half they were pretty poor, but they got their equaliser, and I don't know, Juve just got to continue to be Juve. Chiesa's not all the way back. He doesn't have the impact on games that we would maybe expect him to. They've seen, maybe 60 minutes total of Paul Pogba all season. Do they keep him on? Do they want to go forward with him next season? Juve have some questions because, yeah, they're third. They had a chance to go second. They couldn't quite pull it off. They could conceivably fall out of the top four. They obviously have a way in through the Europa League, but conceivably they could at this point because this top four race, it's dramatic because of how many teams are in it. But at this stage, it looks like no one wants to take it by the collar and make it theirs. And it's just, who wants it less? Who wants it more? I don't know which way to put it because these teams are finding ways to be unconvincing every single week. And Lazio were the one who I thought might be above it all, but they've been dragged right back into the mud with everyone in the last 2 weeks. And yeah, they are the big losers of the last 2 weeks in Serie A for me because they have a lot of work to do to solidify themselves in top four, which we thought they would be doing 2 weeks ago. So drama for sure. Some moments of quality, but ultimately, teams who just find new ways to just not be able to take control of their destiny and wrap up this top four for themselves.
Do you think Lazio have it wrapped up though? Because they're 4 points clear of third. They they have Sassuolo next, AC Milan, Lecce, Udinese, Cremonese, and Empoli. So, do you think
Good run of
that's
fixtures.
yeah? It's only the AC one that's because like Empoli and Lecce are 15, 16, Cremonese are 19th, Sassuolo are 11th. And was there one more that I mentioned? No, just AC. So yeah,
Yeah, they need
you would
to.
expect them to wrap it up because like there's 18 points left to play for with 6 games left. They need
Yeah,
to.
I
I'd say it's something needs to go horribly wrong for them.
well see that's where I agreed with you up until you said something. I think they've left their margin of error even tighter now. I think if they were still,
If they didn't lose
if
to
they had a,
Torino,
yes, if they didn't lose, they can still lose to Inter, but if they didn't lose to Torino, then I would say something horrible must have gone wrong. But
yeah.
they only need a few little things. If they can only draw against Sassuolo in this midweek game, then all of a sudden, and then they lose to Milan, then that's only a few little things that needed to go wrong for them to be under immense pressure.
Well,
Ultimately, it might save them that the teams around them haven't really been able to capitalize on what they've done this week, but they also have allowed Inter and Atalanta back in the race a little bit as well, which is to no one's benefit up there. So,
actually,
yeah,
you know
there
what?
must be.
If
Yeah,
they
go on.
lose to Milan, that's only one. They're only 1 point ahead of the rest, or like
Exactly.
ahead of
That's what I'm saying.
Milan.
That's why.
So
That's why I'm
yeah,
worried for him. This Sassuolo game is quite big. They're going to need to do it without maybe their best defender for the season, and they're going to have to find a way to win again because they picked up some big scalps in that time where they were winning, and this Inter one is a big scalp that they've lost. So yeah, I'm a little bit worried for them. They are, I do agree that they're in the best position, obviously, because they're still second, and like you say, they are still 4 points of those other teams on 57 points. But this Sassuolo game is massive. Like I keep saying, I really think it's a really big game for Lazio.
I'm just checking Juve's fixtures as well. They have Cremonese, Empoli. They have AC Milan as well, and
I see you have all
And
these six
Udinese.
pointers,
Oh, and they have Atalanta. Hang on, they have Lecce,
and there you go.
Atalanta. Then they have Seville in the Europa League.
Yeah,
Cremonese, Seville, Empoli, AC, Udinese. So they have Atalanta and AC. So Juve could easily fall out of that if they lose to AC and Atalanta. So damn
yeah.
man,
AC could fall out of it if they lose to Lazio and
yeah,
Juve.
like
I guess you haven't mentioned Inter for any of those clubs, so
let me see their fixtures, and then I'll check Roma's last. So
yeah, or Roma. You
They
didn't
got Verona.
mention either.
They have Roma this Saturday.
There you go.
So Inter have
There
Roma
you
this
go.
Saturday. Then they have AC in the Champions League. Then they have Sassuolo. So Sassuolo could have a vital role in this run in for two clubs at least.
Yeah,
Then they have AC again. They have Napoli, Fiorentina, Atalanta, Torino. Ooh, dude, Inter's fixtures suck.
yeah. That's not nice.
Yeah, they have the hardest run in, looks like. Because they have Roma, Napoli, and Atalanta.
Yeah, Atalanta have a few of those. You've mentioned them a few times,
Yeah.
so. But Roma don't really have. Roma must only have Inter because you
Look,
didn't mention them for anyone else.
hang on, let me check Roma's one. Roma. So Monza tomorrow night. Inter, Bologna. And they have Leverkusen, like either side of Bologna.
Yeah.
Salernitana, Fiorentina, and Spezia. So
So
yeah,
both
they
both
only
the
really
Rome
have
clubs
Inter.
have. Yeah, both the Rome clubs have easier runs in. But those other clubs where they've got more fixtures against each other, then they have more potential for those 6 points. So, man, it's going to be fascinating. So much drama, so many teams involved.
It's
Atalanta is still there
yeah.
somehow.
Let me check their. Let me
Easy.
check theirs. Let me check theirs before we wrap it up. So they have Spezia, Juve, Salernitana, Verona, Inter. So they only have Inter and then Monza
And Juve.
last. Inter and Juve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Far out.
So tight.
That's
I know.
yeah. I like how they're playing each other like for the final fixtures. Whereas like if you look at, for instance, like if you look at the EPL, like I don't think the top four are really versing each other anymore because like Man United and Newcastle already played each other twice. Liverpool's already played Newcastle twice. Tottenham have already played Newcastle twice. Like so, yeah, and Liverpool have played United twice. So like, yeah, like that's why they can't. That's why like Liverpool and Tottenham can't get back into the top four because they've already played each other twice. So that's why we're saying it's locked up. Whereas like this, yeah, you have teams.
Nothing is locked.
Yeah, like you have teams that are playing each other at least once, if not twice.
And you know what? Was one
of them playing 3 times?
Yeah, I think
Inter, right?
Inter. I think that sounds right. And you know what else I love about this top four race? These are all big name clubs.
Yeah.
You got the 2 Milan clubs, you got the 2 Rome clubs, you got Juve, and Atalanta are the feel good story of recent seasons. So, yeah, I just love that these are actually like historic clubs going for this sort of what they feel the competition they feel they should be in, but they got to earn it, and it's going to be fun to watch. Easily the most fun storyline left of this season in terms of league football, comfortably.
If I gave you a tenner, actually no, I'll put more risk on it. It's your own tenner. It's your own tenner. Who would your 10 be on for top 4 in no particular order? So Napoli's in there. Who are the other 3?
I'll still go with Lazio. I need to see it again though. Oh man, the others.
See, you know what the difficult thing is? It also depends on who gets knocked out between AC and Inter, because they might then throw everything at the league, whereas the other one might be like, well, we might need to rest some players, or like
that's another dynamic. Roma have their Europa League.
Yeah, and also like if they get knocked out, then they might be like on a downward trajectory as well. Like the players might not feel as motivated. Whereas like if they win and then they make the final of their respective European competition, then they'll be full of confidence. So like there's actually so much there. Because like Juve are also in the Europa League semis, Roma, and then the two Milan clubs. So like, and then you know what? Also like with winning comes complacency as well. So like not only can winning be like a good thing, it can also be a bad thing as well. So like it's insane how much of the mental aspect, the psychological aspect, can actually be applied to this on outside components, as in the European competitions that these teams are a part of.
Look, I have to answer your question without answering your question.
Go on.
I have no idea. I feel a little better about Lazio than the rest, and that's why I'll put them as a bet. But I have no idea who is going to be 3rd and 4th out of the other 2. And I think everything that you've just said, how many clubs that they have, and I don't know if you've seen it, but Serie A are absolutely lapping up the fact that they have all these teams in European competition, because before the matches they have the ad with Fabio Capello, Fabio Cannavaro, and Luca Toni. And then Fabio Capello comes into the theatre. It's like a grand theatre hall. And he's like touching the seats, brushing the seats as he walks past. And he looks up to the guy who's setting up the lights. And it's Fabio Cannavaro. And he's like, "Are you ready?" He's like, "I am ready." And then Luca Toni comes out and he pulls the curtain on the theatre, and they're all sitting there watching these Serie A teams, and this guy's talking about how many teams they have in Europe this season, and they're all nodding and stuff. And then
man.
at the end, Fabio Cavallo is like, "Calcio is back." That's the end of the end. And look, honestly, he summed it up perfectly.
Yeah.
Italian football is back. Calcio is back.
Would
So
you
long. Let's see it. Let's see what happens here because the European subplot, the league, the top four. It's crazy, man. Crazy all the little ramifications.
would you say okay? The final question. If if an Italian club wins both European competitions, do they have a club in the Conference League as well or no?
Yeah, Fiorentina, who are pretty, I would say favourites. I'd say they're better in a better position than West Ham right now.
But they're on the other. They're on the two other sides of the bracket.
Yeah,
So
they should
they
meet in
could
the final, I
yeah.
believe.
Okay,
Yeah.
if all three European competitions are won by an Italian club, is Italy the second best confirmed second best league, or are they already the second best league without them winning any of those European trophies, and Spain is still second?
Yeah, I think it's hard to take it away from Spain, although Barcelona haven't been good in Europe this season, but they still have Real Madrid. I don't know, maybe it's not hard to take it away from Spain after what Barca and Atletico did in the Champions League, though. Sociedad were decent in the Europa League. Betis were decent in the Europa League as well. Sevilla's still in it, and they might win it. So, yeah, Spain have always had a good tradition in the Europa League as well as having at least two big clubs in the Champions League. They failed at the Champions League. So. Oh, I don't know. Because Napoli sort of this season, I think we have to. I think it would confirm if they won all three. It would confirm that Serie
They're
A
second
and
because
yeah
EPL's
is
first.
second. Yeah, is second right now. And look, Italians are maybe not unfairly so. They'll tell you that Serie A would be the top league if they won all three of those competitions. And I guess you can't really argue if they have all three European competitions.
Well, it depends
in
how
Italy.
you're judging it. Like if you're judging on the best,
Exactly.
all the best players, all the best managers playing in the same league, then it's obviously the EPL.
But honestly, for managerial quality, I would say it's second. Definitely. Maurizio Sarri, I think, is a fantastic manager. I really like Simone Inzaghi. Spalletti, obviously, is good. Allegri, I've always liked, and he's somewhat found himself again. Gasperini at Atalanta. Really good managers all the way through. Thiago Motta's up and coming at Bologna now. So, look, for me, on entertainment factor and drama factor and just, I think what the league is, Serie A for me is the second best. The second most entertaining, and it's for that reason I said before.
European results.
Somewhat, because it was what we were saying about the names who are fighting out for the top four this season. They are all big historical names, and they're the kind of teams I enjoy watching. I don't know, what happens to the Milan clubs going forward is going to be really interesting. Add that to the storyline. Is this semi-final at San Siro, is it a new dawn for the Milan clubs, or is it in fact the wake of football in Milan? Because if let's play out this scenario, maybe both the Milan clubs might miss out on top four. One of them obviously is going to make the final, but they'll be underdogs to win that match. So we might have a scenario where neither Milan club gets into the Champions League next season, and then the financial struggles, particularly of Inter, that could mean that and with San Siro, the either relocation or whatever they're going to do
Being
to
rebuilt.
it. Yeah, exactly. That could lead to really bad ramifications for both those clubs in the future, because you'd think AC will lose all their talent if that is to happen, and Inter are already going to have to cut their squad because of their bloated wage bill. So, man, that's a big storyline going forward. But yeah, for drama, for everything that the league is, I really enjoy Serie A.
Alright,
But yeah,
well,
you can have different opinions because I think for me, I think it's fair to say it is the second best league after this season in Europe, because Spain's a little bit boring. It has the big institutions, but like I said, Barca and Atletico didn't do well in the Champions League. So, and Germany, oh man, even the title race in Germany's been low quality this season. So, at least Serie A had a truly transcendent team in Napoli, who are a really good team. And then the rest behind it, I think I think it's fair to say the Premier League is still the best. I think Newcastle and United will probably finish top four in Italy. But in terms of Other teams, I don't think Sociedad would finish top four. I don't think Union or Freiburg or Leipzig would finish top four in Serie A. To be fair, I think Marseille and Lens would actually have chances. So the French league isn't doing too badly up the top end for itself, but it's the bottom end of the French league that's a bit dodgy. So yeah, I think it's a fair statement, especially if they win all three. I don't think you could argue with Serie A being the second best team. League, yeah.
All right, well,
Culture is back.
Culture. We'll finish on that one. So tonight, going to look forward to some Chelsea-Arsenal, or Arsenal-Chelsea since Arsenal at home. Hopefully, Arsenal can get back to winning ways, and because if this is a draw, then 100% anything less than a win at 100%, the title race is over. So there's some big implications on the game, and yeah, we'll review that probably Friday or something. Me and you will obviously organise a time, a get together. But yeah, to everyone that was listening so far, I know we promised an hour, but you got an hour and 50, so you got 50 minutes of extra time with us. Caleb before, to everyone listening to Caleb before was like, oh, do you want to just do a quick pod, 45 minutes to an hour? Nah, bloody almost 2 hours again. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. Everyone like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. Do you agree with the Italian league being the second best, or are they still the third? Let us know in the comments. And to everyone that has been with us so far, thanks for coming, and bye for now.